All right, welcome on in, ladies and gentlemen, to round two of the 2025-2 season. We are here in the evening hours at Homestead-Miami Speedway to follow up a chaotic and crazy first race in Daytona. Joining me alongside, as always, is, of course, Tom Richter.
Well, good evening, Arie. It's so glad to be back up here. Tonight, same state, very different style of racing than what we saw last week. Last week, we saw 34 trucks take their way to the High Banks Daytona, and tonight we're at the deceivingly difficult Homestead-Miami Speedway for 134 laps.
That we are, and as the drivers are wrapping up their practice session and getting ready to go out there and set down some fast laps for qualifying, we've got some race info and whatnot to show you. But what do you say, Tom, real quick, we take a track side and get the pre-race underway? All right, drivers are settling down, getting ready for qualifying here in about 3 or so minutes here at the Homestead-Miami Speedway. Before we jump into all of that, let's take a look at tonight's race info. Throw that up on the screen. We've got, as always, 3 stages. Stage 1 concluding at the end of lap 30, Stage 2 at 57, and the race itself in the end of Stage 3 at lap 134. Now, a real quick note on this, Tom. Very interesting. A fuel run tonight, I'm hearing, is about 37 laps, which is going to make that third stage pretty interesting to kind of see what everyone does and how they play it, especially at a track like this.
Yeah, you and I heard very similar things, but earlier last week, I was talking with a driver, and he was telling me that he was only getting about 31 laps. So it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers run this track. If you're running the top side of the speedway like we see Eric Anderson right now, more throttle, longer way around the track, may see some of these drivers working the top lane of the speedway, perhaps a little bit closer on that fuel window. But yeah, I did hear anywhere between 35 and 37 from the majority of the field out here tonight. And then we also have 6 tire sets out here tonight, so there are five tire changes that these drivers will have to use over the next 134 laps as well.
That there is, and a big deciding factor on if those tire sets are going to be used and if it's going to get stressful is how many cautions do we get and when do they happen. Well, we've also got a point standings to show everyone. Of course, being one race down, that gives us kind of a baseline to work with here. And after the chaos settled and everyone kind of found out where they were by the checkered flag falling in Daytona, we've got Greg Mitchell atop the point standings, who, on one hand, A little surprising, just given you expect that out of Greg everywhere else, but with how chaotic Daytona was, for Greg to still come out with the points lead, I think was pretty impressive. We've got a lot of names who are a lot higher in the points, Tom, than we would usually see throughout the season. Having such a good strong to the season, I think has a good chance to propel some of these names into a pretty good first 4, 5, 6 races.
Yeah, and one of the biggest changes, Arie, from our last season at the Cyber Thunder Racing League to this season, Eric Anderson, last season, he would have been sitting pretty with a parrot on his shoulder, drinking a margarita every Tuesday night until the playoffs started. No more winning in. Now it is the top 10 in points, plus the 2 wild cards that will make up our playoff bracket come January.
That is correct, and I think the no winning in is going to be a really interesting dynamic to see play out, especially with the wild card system for those final 2 spots in the playoffs. This is, of course, tracking the stage points. The gist of it is, if you don't make it into the top 10 in playoffs by the time it starts, we'll take the 2 drivers with the most stage points who missed the cut just outside of that range, and they will get themselves an entry into those playoffs, make it 12 total. So we're tracking stage points, and the drivers are too, especially this season. We saw a lot of drivers going for them last week. Drivers who we don't usually see go for those stage points. So excited to see how tonight's stages unfold.
Well, we are ready to get set for our 5-minute 2-lap qualifying session out here tonight. As the lights turn green for the qualifying session, we're waiting to see the first drivers to light up from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday night. Excuse me, it is a Tuesday night here on the Cyber Thunder Broadcast Network. Amanda Sherman, Corey Sherman, Leroy Koblenz, first drivers to pop up on the screen, ready to go. Leroy had a phenomenal run for that 42 truck last week at Daytona.
Leroy absolutely did, was there at the right time in the closing moments to push teammate Eric Anderson across the line as the winner. We saw a great showing, a great result for Graybeard Racing, and Leroy, of course, being one of the new members of Graybeard Racing. So already going out there and starting off real strong. Changed the number to 42 this season's got a real slick looking truck. So I'm looking forward to some big things and some step forwards from the 42.
Yeah, Leroy's got a lot of potential, comes in with a lot of points as we see Leroy begin his first qualifying lap out here, running right up against the boards out here, and we're probably going to be seeing that from a lot of drivers as he tries to get those tires heated up and make a qualifying effort for lap number 2 here in a moment.
Yeah, if there's one thing I've noticed at a track like Miami, and I would even say these days more often than it was previously, that second lap, that's the money lap. And I remember a time a long time ago where the first lap is where you were getting it, and by lap 2 your tires were gone. But it's funny how it works these days. You use that first lap just to kind of build the heat, get them where you want them, and this is really the lap that counts. And I think running up against the wall is it's the safer bet at Miami, Tom, but I think there's a lot of speed to be found on the bottom if you can nail that bottom line, and that's a big if.
Some other drivers right now out on track. You see the board starting to light up. Brad Holmes currently fastest. Mike Stiverson about 8/100ths of a second behind him. Eric Anderson in the 43 machine, last week's winner, currently sitting third. Rick Thompson, Ed Jurgen currently rounds out the top 5 in your qualifying session here as Rick finishes up his laps out here. Let's take a look and see if we can't find Dave Gainforth in that number 101 machine. Dave went for a ride last week, but Dave in that 101 machine back out here with a new wheel, some new hardware for that bright yellow and black Toyota Tundra as he's working lap number 2.
I'd be surprised if every panel of that truck wasn't new after those 14 some odd flips at Daytona. And good to see Dave back on track and getting back into the fold, getting back into the mix, and hopefully not having another rollover kind of day for Dave as he crosses the line. And I do believe that is going to put Mr. Gainforth in 13th as it stands.
13th drops down the board. Larry Bell bumps Dave Gainforth 1 spot down. Lee Campbell. Lee is one of those drivers, Arie, that had a really great last season, his rookie campaign in the Cyber Thunder Racing League. Lee coming out, didn't really get the race that he wanted out at Daytona, but tonight, really kind of the first test for Lee Campbell to see where he stacks up against the competition in this season.
That is correct. I think we're going to see we kind of saw a really sneaky, solid season last season out of Lee Campbell, and I think this season it's going to be a little more noticeable. We're going to really take note of that 60 truck running up towards the front, kind of flirting with the top 5 in a lot of events. Excited to see what he can manage.
Lee Campbell comes across the board, and Lee, currently 15th on the board. Talk about sneaky. Got involved in a wreck last week, but Greg Mitchell in that red and white Chevy Silverado crossing the start-finish line. See where he comes across for lap number 1. He may have actually had a...
He may have
had an incident on his first lap there. Did not get scored on his first lap. So do believe that was a time lap for Greg Mitchell.
Absolutely. And for those wondering who might be out there watching and might not know, if you so much as graze the wall on a qualifying lap, it will invalidate that lap. All it takes is the tiniest scrape.
Across the board this time by for the number 55 machine. Number 55 going to go to the top of the board. Fastest at Homestead-Miami Speedway right now for the Sunset Showdown 250. Looks like Greg is going to be the last driver, as there's about 30 seconds remaining out in qualifying. Couple of drivers not yet taking a time. Jackie Brandon, Chris Letts, Brian Dorsey, Jared Anderson, Fred Thompson, and Steven Music. Drivers not yet electing to take a time.
One thing I've also noticed is our intervals on screen are a little off, but Greg Mitchell sets the pole with a 33.07 to Brad Holmes' 33.08 and Corey Sherman's 33.09. We're seeing some really close times out there, Tom. Each of the top 3 separated by only a hundredth, of a second.
Well, it's about time on a Tuesday evening that we get set to go racing once again here from the Cyber Thunder Broadcast Network. As the checkered flag comes out, what do you say we do it once again?
I'm looking forward to this one, Tom. Miami is a real fun track. There's so many different lines, and I'm excited. We've got a fun one ahead of us. Here we go, then. Starting on pole, you just heard it. It's going to be Greg Mitchell in the 55. On the outside of the front row, Brad Holmes, double-double in the 00. Corey Sherman with a great bounce back in 3rd on the grid here for Miami. We've got Rick Thompson in 4th, and Andrew Caldwell will round out the top 5. Nathan Dufton in 6th, Mike Stiverson 7th. Eric Anderson, last week's winner, will be starting us off in 8th. Larry Bell in 9th, and rounding out the top 10, Dustin Ping in the 81.
And starting 11th on the board, Ed Jurgen, Amanda Sherman to his outside. Chris Rose going to be starting in row number 6 or 7. Chris Rose followed by Leroy Koblenz, Gary Bowman, Lee Campbell, David Gainforth, Chris Mackey. All drivers inside the top 10 or top 15 qualifying positions out here. Philip Van Vliet and Jason Dinsmore.
In 21st, we've got Tanner Marr, followed by Chris Wold in 22nd. Logan Spencer in the 19 truck in 23rd. Jaden Wicks, newcomer to the league, will be starting in 24th. Dwayne Young, another newcomer, in 25th. Theodore Todorov, the newcomers just keep coming, in 26th in that 33 truck. We've got Andy Cork in the 41 of Graybeard starting in 27th. Matthew Hamilton in the 71 will be starting in 28th. And then we've got, by the looks of it, Casey Tomlinson and Jared Anderson rounding out the top 30 before we get to the last bit. In 31st, we've got Fred Thompson, Brian Dorsey 32nd, Steven Music in 33rd, and rounding out the field, Chris Letts, aka Jackie Brandon, by scoring.
Well, as we get set to go racing out here tonight, Arie, going to be a wonderful time out here. The field of 34 drivers getting set to go racing, and we are almost ready to go. Remember, stages do end at lap number 30 and 57, so that's what the drivers are looking forward to for the first stages and 134 laps overall. About time to go racing. What do you say?
I have never been more ready now. I don't think we'll have any fuel concerns through the first 2 stages. It's all tires and it's all speed. Let's see what these drivers got. Greg Mitchell, Brad Holmes going to lead us into the restart zone. Flagman's got that green flag in hand. Loud pedal down, we are a go.
Everybody's going to come up through the gearboxes 4 gears strong. for the first time out here tonight. Brad Holmes to the outside of Greg Mitchell. Greg Mitchell takes about a half a car length lead as Corey Sherman trying to solidify third. Wiggle for Brad Holmes coming out of 2. Greg Mitchell leads.
See a couple cars just grazing the wall on exit of 2 right there. Everyone's got to get that car settled. These cold tires are no joke, and they can catch you slipping. Quite literally, as we see Corey Sherman up to second place now, comfortably trying to chase down the back bumper of Greg Mitchell, who's going to lead lap 1 at Homestead.
Lap 1 done and away as you see the entire field of drivers behind Greg Mitchell looking to gain any sort of track position that they possibly can. Corey Sherman's made his way to the top shelf of the Speedway right now, trying to get a big run off, and he's going to coming at turn number 2 down the backstretch here. He's going to take a look to the inside of Greg Mitchell for the race lead.
There he goes, the Shermanator in the 3s looking to bounce back strong after a bad race in Daytona, getting caught out early. And Greg Mitchell's saying, okay, you know what? I want to save my tires. You go for it. You go lead some laps. And that's Corey Sherman in the 3, P1.
Drivers come across the board right here. Biggest mover so far of the night. See Chris Rose up 3 spots, Phil Van Vliet up 3 spots, Dustin Ping up 4 spots. Drivers going in the wrong direction right now. Chris Wold, Jason Dinsmore, Lee Campbell, all down 2, 3, 4, 5 spots as we work lap number 3. But you see the different lanes that these drivers are going to be using all night long right now. Greg kind of running about the same line as Brad Holmes right there in front of him, but Corey Sherman setting the pace.
That he is, and one thing I'm noticing already, Tom, is just how loose everyone is getting off of turn 2 especially. There's been a couple instances now, as we've watched the field go around the last couple laps, where I've caught a car just wiggling, that back end trying to step out just a little bit, especially those drivers who are side-by-side and in traffic. It seems like that dirty air and the way turn 2 exit is, it is kind of a handful right now.
Take a ride on board here with Brad Holmes in the 0-0 machine right now. And you'll see the run that he gets off the exit of the corner here, working lap number 5 laps down. Everybody's kind of riding the bottom lane up towards the front of the field. Be interesting to see if we take a step back here in a wider camera angle. We'll be able to see kind of everybody else behind them using the using multiple lanes out here tonight. And it's going to be so difficult to pass on the bottom if you have a good car up on the outside lane.
That it is, and I think one of the biggest things that we're going to see through these first 2 stages, especially with fuel not being a concern, is what's the difference in tire wear for some of the cars running on the bottom versus some of the cars who elect to stay up top. Now, one thing I'm noticing this early in the race is all of these guys up front, they're electing to run the bottom. Now, if that's a product of what they saw in practice, or if that's a product of seeing some others on the bottom and saying, hey, I want to do that too, remains to be seen. But I feel like the ideal spot to pass is going to be on that kind of middle line if you can pinch the bottom down just a bit.
Currently following the battle for about 4th place on track, Dustin Ping underneath Rick Thompson as they come out of turn number 4 across the start-finish line. Dustin Ping did not make last week's season opener at Daytona, so already comes in on a points deficit, trying to gain not only stage points, but some race points overall and fight his way, or begin his fight into the top 10 in points.
Dustin Ping, of course, driving a brand new paint scheme for the season. Looks real good with that matte black and red. Dustin, I think, Tom, is definitely going for some stage points. We are seeing an aggressive Dustin Ping, which is nothing new, but I think we're seeing a little bit of an extra aggressive Dustin Ping with how early it is in the race. I think Dustin's seeing his missed race last week at Daytona as a big reason to go out there and try and make stage 1 count.
A couple of other big battles happening around on track, trying to keep a really good eye on this battle for fourth place. As
big slide. That was Nathan Dufton.
Yeah, it looks like maybe Nathan got caught up in the wall up on the outside, but Gary Bowman up 4 spots from his qualifying position. That tells me that number 8 smoked bacon Toyota Tundra looking for some stage points right in front of Mike Stuyvesant right now.
Everyone kind of settling in as we approach the 10 laps into the run mark. That's about where we're going to start to see a little bit of a difference in the tire wear. Who has been watching their tires? Who's been a little careless with their tires? It's usually around that 10 to 12 laps into the run at a track like Miami here where we're going to start to see that difference. So I wouldn't be surprised, Tom, if we start seeing the field break up a little bit, or if we even start to see some drivers fight loose and some drivers fight tight.
On board with Ed Jurgen and the number 92 Jurgen's Lawn Care. out here tonight for Ed. Ed had a really strong run last week at Daytona. Unfortunately, got caught up in a late race incident. Arguably not to his own doing, but now underneath Chris Rose in that 0-7 for Ed Jurgen trying to fight his way forward. Ed makes the pass for 9th.
That he does, and I think this season we're seeing a renewed Chris Rose. Speaking of that 0-7 truck, right on Ed's bumper on entry right there, real close. We're seeing a renewed motivation and a renewed vigor from Chris Rose, who messaged me earlier in the week and wanted some tips for Homestead, wanted to know what to do differently and kind of how to manage the tires. So seeing that out of Chris, I think, is really promising, and that's definitely, as you've said before, one of the drivers with a lot of potential here in Cyber.
Huge look for Gary Bowman down to the inside of Chris Rose. That was a huge look, kind of uncharacteristic for Gary Bowman. Gary, the driver with one of the lowest incident counts last season. Him and Chris Rose almost traded some paint down there in turns 1 and 2, and they may not be done just quite yet.
No, they may not be done. Chris Rose is not afraid to have some close calls this early, right after I was talking him up, but hopefully everyone keeps it going, keeps it clean as they have so far, getting his elbows out just a little bit. Back up front, the top two have a little breakaway. Corey Sherman, Greg Mitchell, bumper to bumper, and you've got a little gap to Brad Holmes. Mostly negligible, but could this be a sign of things to come?
Top two have kind of walked away from Brad Holmes, a little bit over half a second. Dustin Ping right and fourth right now, and Andrew Caldwell just over a second outside the race lead, rounding out the top 5. But Greg Mitchell says, hold the phone. Here comes the 55 machine. Greg Mitchell trying to take a look back down into the inside of Corey Sherman. Not able to make it work that corner. Gonna have to restack, repack, and try to make it work down in 3.
Well, I tell you what, Tom, in my years of racing Corey Sherman in that 3, if there's one thing I've learned, it's that he loves to take the high line to defend a position, and you'll see that out of Corey every single time. So his objective right now in his mind is going to be to force Greg to go low and to give him hell, as they say. That's the Corey Sherman way, and he's going to want to stay up here, lead some laps, and more than anything, just keep that clean air on the nose. Because one thing that Corey has kind of had in his to-do list to improve a little bit, if you might, is just that long run tire saving, kind of like a Greg Mitchell, who is I think one of the best drivers out on track right now at that. If Corey can keep that clean air on his nose, it puts him in a perfect position to keep those tires happy. And if Corey can keep those tires happy, he's fast enough to be very dangerous.
Yeah, keeping a close eye on Greg Mitchell and the Corey Sherman battle for the race lead. Battle right now for fourth place. Dustin Ping, Andrew Caldwell. You see Dustin get a huge run off the outside of turn number 2, and he's going to be able to protect that position. Andrew's going to need to be a little bit more even, almost a little bit of a bump down there on the entry to 3.
That it was, and I think right here we are seeing the prime example of how the passing game goes at a place like Miami here. That middle to high line is going to be preferred, and if you got to make the pass, you really don't want to have to do it on the bottom, but you're really left to do that, as we see Dustin give up the position right here. Finally, Andrew's just much faster at this point, but you have, as the defending car, a huge advantage at a track like Miami with multiple lines where you can stay on that high side. You could go all the way up to the wall if you need to defend that spot and keep the person behind you from passing.
Taking a look back here for about the 7th place position right now, Gary Bowman, Eric Anderson, they're running solidly, having a good stage 1 up here, running 7th and 8th on the board right now. Ed Jurgen in 9th, and Nathan Dufton had that incident a couple of moments ago, still up inside the top 10.
Looks like, to me, Tom, up front, our 2 race leaders are pulling away. That's going to be about a second gap between Greg Mitchell and Brad Holmes. That's 2nd and 3rd place, respectively. Those top 2, it wasn't just a lap or 2. These guys are starting to run away with it. We see Andrew Caldwell has gotten up to 4th. He's sticking with Brad Holmes there. Andrew Caldwell's got some speed, made it past a couple of drivers, and we'll see what he can do tonight. But so far, 18 laps into this run, I'm pretty impressed with Corey Sherman, pretty impressed with that 3 truck. We've seen him be aggressive to go out there and lead some laps, but for him to be holding off Greg this long, I think that's a good sign.
it's going to be this going to kind of be a little bit of a test here for Corey in the number 3 machine to see if he's able to hold him off for the next 12 laps. You know, a lot of drivers not entirely sure of what their trucks will do as the end of stage number 1 begins to make a conclusion here, but battles all over the speedway right now. Andrew Caldwell trying to take a look on Brad Holmes. He's going to get a good run out of turn number 2 and probably take a look down to the bottom here, in which he does.
He absolutely does, and we'll see what Brad Holmes decides to do right here. Will he fight it, or will he let that 46 go? I think Brad's going to try and fight it, but I tell you what, that 46 has got those tires figured out, and I think that's what we're seeing right here out of Andrew Caldwell, making up these positions. Oh, contact between Chris Rose and the 47 of Dufton, who goes into the wall. Everyone keeps it straight, but there's damage, and it's still a kerfuffle.
Got a lot of trucks going for a lot of real estate, as we caught that one live on the Cyber Thunder Broadcast Network. Contact between Chris Rose, was that Nathan Dufton, maybe Philip Van Vliet as well. We'll take another look at it in just a second. We're going to let this 3-wide situation kind of settle out here, but Nathan Dufton going backwards in a hurry after that contact a lap ago.
That he is. That was contact heavy on the right front of the truck, and you could just see on entry how much Nathan was struggling to get that truck turned. I wouldn't be surprised if that wheel was crooked going down the straightaway. You can just see how tight he's getting, and he's having to give up so much speed in the middle of the corner. That is unfortunate for Nathan's race, but so long as he can keep that truck straight, he should be able to survive to the stage break to try and work on that.
While all that was happening, we missed a change for the race lead. Greg Mitchell, Corey Sherman, new race leader, number 55, Greg Mitchell, coming out to work lap number 22 out here. But lots of battles all over the speedway. We saw a huge moment for Nathan and Chris Rose and those drivers back in about the 10th, 11th, 12th place running position. And these drivers up here, they're saying, hey, just keep it clean until the end of the stage.
That's right. The fewer cautions that you have in the first 2 stages, the less you have to worry about tires by the end of it. But we start getting some mid-stage cautions, and that throws everything out the window, and that's where it gets real crazy.
Taking a look here real quick as the stage beginning to come to a conclusion out here. See Chris Rose sliding up the track, maybe just the tiniest a bit. Also, Nathan maybe not using the entire track that Chris is maybe expecting, but you gotta be responsible for the nose of your truck there.
You absolutely do. This is a tried and true case of, you know, you're responsible for the bumper in front of you, and that was just one of those instances where it was cut just a little too close and contact was made. One of our bigger movers of the race so far, Gary Bowman, in P5, up 10 positions by the end of lap 23 right there. Gary, of course, one of our drivers known for tire saving, known for taking care of that truck and slowly chipping away at it. I think we're seeing the Gary Bowman special here tonight so far, Tom. I know it's early in the race, but to be making up that many positions up into the top 5 in 23 laps, that's pretty impressive.
Full course yellow over the speedway looks like an issue for Chris Rose and possibly Philip Van Vliet. Well, that is not our stage designation, so we are going to be going back green.
That we are. Let me see if I can queue up an incident here and see what we can get. Oh, looks like that crash had already happened at that point. See if we can go back to here maybe. All right, we've got Chris Rose on the exit of 2, just gets into the wall. And looks like Philip Van Vliet just to the inside of that truck. Once you hit that wall, you get a good bounce off of it. Heading down the straight, Chris is just kind of pointed at an angle. Not really going straight. Philip's just holding his line. And Chris just kind of comes across the nose of the 89 truck right there. I think that was a really good shot of it. From there, Chris is just along for the ride. You see the truck lift up. Truck gets a little airborne right there. Luckily doesn't flip over and tumble like we saw a lot of in the previous week at Daytona. But that just sends Chris for a little bit of a slide there. Looks like no harm, no foul outside of this incident. And everyone else is gonna skate by. relatively unscathed. So unfortunate for the 07 right there. I don't think there was any damage really to the 89 or the 07 for the most part. Just that little contact with the wall, and all is good to go. Jump back up live with the race leaders here. Go ahead, Tom.
Drivers, a lot of these drivers, they were informed this is not the stage-ending caution. So thought maybe we would have seen some drivers come down on pit road, and we do have a couple of drivers down on pit road: Amanda Sherman, Chris Rose, Nathan Dufton, Fred Thompson, drivers that were kind of running towards the back of the pack here. This tells me that they're trying to stop here and not come on the stage-ending caution coming in lap 30.
That is correct, and you know, if I'm out there on track, Tom, I'm one of the drivers who might be undercutting this stage. Now, it's different for everybody, because some people are going to want the stage points, especially with that Scrambler Series and the wild card. But some people who might feel real confident on points, they might decide, hey, you know what? What if I make up some track position going into stage 2? There's no wrong answer at the end of the day, and that's the beauty of it. So we'll see how it plays out for those who decided to pit and will get themselves some track position. And for those who stayed out, well, we're going to have a fun little battle to the stage end. Looks like we are already doubled up. Lights are out on the pace car. This is going to be the final pace lap before we get back to green flag racing action. Reminder that the stage ends at the conclusion of lap 30 when 10th place crosses the line. We will be restarting with 3 laps to go. We're going to restart on lap 28 at the beginning of said lap. Greg Mitchell, Corey Sherman on the front row, Andrew Caldwell, Brad Holmes third and fourth, excuse me, and Gary Bowman rounding out the top 5 as that pace car takes us through turns 3 and 4 and gets ready to pull down.
Well, this is not something that the leaders, especially Greg Mitchell, Corey Sherman, maybe Andrew Caldwell, maybe even Brad Holmes, wanted to see. I think the first car that maybe wanted to see this was Gary Bowman. We saw Gary working his way forward as he usually does on the tire strategy. Keep an eye on that number 8 machine in this short little 3-lap shootout.
I will be keeping my eye on that 8 as I usually am, and here we go. The field's already broken up. The outside line does not get a very good start. Corey Sherman just barely edges ahead of the nose of Andrew Caldwell for that bottom line into turns 1. Brad Holmes on the outside, almost gets to the outside of Corey, but can't quite do it. Greg Mitchell away in the lead.
Here comes Gary Bowman in the number 8 machine, Andrew Caldwell in the 46. Bowman down to the bottom, trying to take a look for 4th place over Andrew Caldwell right now. He doesn't have a whole lot of time to make it work.
Take a zoomed out shot right here as we see Brad Holmes to the inside of Corey Sherman, Gary Bowman to the inside of Andrew Caldwell. We are at 2 laps to go for the stage. Look at all the different lines our race leaders are using. Andrew Caldwell all the way out to the wall, trying to get a big run down the backstretch. Will it be enough to clear Gary Bowman? Yes. And here comes the 46, 3 wide to the bottom. Has to let up quite a bit, but can Andrew Caldwell make it stick?
Andrew Caldwell's going to clear Brad Holmes, at least for right now, but there's a train of 3 cars up on the outside lane. A lot depends on what Gary Bowman does here if he decides to jump down and push the 46 through. But good job by Andrew Caldwell. He is able to take 3rd place away from Brad Holmes right now. Battle now for 2nd place. Caldwell, Sherman trying to finish out the stage here. This is the final lap.
That it is. Down the backstretch we go. Greg Mitchell loving everything he's seeing in his mirror. Caldwell going to tuck in behind the 3 and have one more go at it, but Corey Sherman closes the door. Gary Bowman trying to take it from Brad Holmes through turn 4 we go. Caldwell gets sideways. Can he hold on to it? Take 2nd. He is not going to get there in time, but Gary Bowman, I think, beat Brad Holmes to the line, did he not?
Wow, that was, I was going to say, remember, we're waiting on the 10th place car to come through to throw the yellow flag. But the field was so stacked up, so close together, that Greg Mitchell is the stage 1 winner. I want to say Corey Sherman got 2nd, Andrew Caldwell 3rd, Gary Bowman, and then finally Brad Holmes.
I would tend to agree with that as well. One thing is for certain, Greg Mitchell is going to win stage number 1. That is a stage win in both events of the season so far, 2 for 2 for Greg Mitchell. Can he go out there and sweep the stages a little bit later on? We are going to find out.
So now it's going to be interesting, Arie, to find out the first driver on tires that came down onto pit road on that lap number 27 caution. Logan Spencer and then Amanda Sherman. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Logan and Amanda here to see exactly what they do on this round of yellow flag pit stop.
Please do, because I'm very interested to see how that goes. I would love to see those two jump out front of the field, along with anyone else who came down and took tires there, because that would be a perfect way to shake it up heading into stage 2. We get ready to watch our leaders dive down on to pit road. It should be every single truck you see up in the front bunch of the field. Greg Mitchell, Corey Sherman, Andrew Caldwell lead us down.
Looking to see if any drivers do elect to stay out. Jaden Wicks in the 02 machine. Jaden stays out. Logan Spencer, as expected, in the 19 machine. Those two drivers are going to stay out, maybe a couple of more, but let's watch the exit of pit road here as all the drivers make their way into the box. 4 up, 4 down.
Looks like everyone getting in nice and clean. Greg Mitchell, of course, sitting with that prime pit position, that first stall. I'd be surprised if he wasn't the first one off, but more so than anything, I want to know who stayed out.
Well, drivers that stayed out, looks like only 3 drivers stayed out. Jaden Wicks, Logan Spencer, Jared Anderson. There's only 3 laps, right, Arie? I don't hate that call.
I don't hate it either, especially if you're somebody who was riding real far at the back, like the 5 truck, who was buried in quite a lot of track position. So you take that opportunity. If you're the 5, if you're the 4 of Tandemar, you're going to take it. I mean, these guys, the top 4, from where they started, Jaden Wicks up 23, Logan Spencer up 21, Jared Anderson up 27 positions. That's the call. You're sacrificing 2 to 3 laps green flag on your tires, and maybe you weren't even pushing because you knew you were going to pull this strategy. So I think it's great. I don't think there was a wrong answer, and I think for these guys, it was the best call they can make. Lights are out on that pace car. Field is doubling up. We can see that our former race leader, Greg Mitchell, down to 5th place. Corey Sherman in 6th. That was our de facto 1-2. But now we've got 4 drivers who are on a little bit of an altered strategy. The 02, the 19, the 5, and the 4 are all on somewhat older tires. Now, it's not very much whatsoever. Those tires are basically new, column scuffs. The difference is going to come down to what can they do with this clean air running at the front of the field. Can these guys find the pace that they were lacking in qualifying and the first part of the race now that they have that position? Or will they drown in the track position? We're going to find out. Pace car is getting ready to pull down, and we are getting back at it for stage number 2, which concludes at the end of lap 57.
Once again, about to see the 3rd restart of the night, being led by Jaden Wicks, Logan Spencer, Jared Anderson, and Tanner Marr. Make up your front 2 rows. They're going to come up through the gearboxes, 4 gears strong. Down here into turn number 1, Jaden Wicks with a jump over 2nd place, Logan Spencer right now. But Logan Spencer keeping his left front on the right rear of the 02. Run for the 19 on the exit of the corner here.
Run indeed, and that's going to see Logan Spencer clear for the race lead with that big old Canadian flag on that rear bumper right there. Tanner Marr up to 3rd, holding on ahead of that 5, and it looks like coming off a turn 4, it's going to be Logan Spencer in the 19 who's going to lead this time by.
A moment for Corey back there. Corey's going to lose 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 spots as they enter into turn number 1. 3 wide with, is that Gary Bowman down there? It is.
Little bit of contact as Corey squeezed those two a little more than he probably intended. Smart move from Gary Bowman to give up a couple positions, get out of the throttle, and avoid that being any worse than it was. Gary was just kind of put into a bad spot as we see Greg Mitchell and Brad Holmes, the 2 newest tires runners, mixing it up with these top guys right here.
You see Greg Mitchell trying to make the most of those tires as he's got, I want to say that's Jaden Wicks to his outside. Entering into turn number 1, Greg Mitchell in a 3 wide situation. Brad Holmes on the inside, Jaden Wicks on the outside. This is close quarter racing. While all this is happening, Jared Anderson is taking the race lead.
That he has. 5 truck to the lead as we saw Tanner Marr get crazy loose on the exit of 2. Brad Holmes had to check up for that one. Brad Holmes racing Greg Mitchell kind of separate from everything else going on right here. And here comes Andrew Caldwell as the 55 gets loose on the exit of 4. This is quite a jumble right here, Tom, and the 5 truck is loving it.
What an absolute humdinger. I think that was the word around Cyber Thunder Racing League earlier this week. Humdinger of cars that these drivers are racing around right now. Greg Mitchell, Andrew Caldwell, Nathan Dufton, Jaden Wicks, Brad Holmes, Tanner Marr. Throw a blanket over the next 7 or 8 cars in a line. As Jared Anderson, Tanner Marr, they're looking in their rearview mirror and they're saying, hey, keep this up. We don't mind this so much.
They do not at all. And I tell you what, Tom, we were talking about how good of a call it was for these drivers to stay out on those slightly used tires. I think it's turning out to be a better call than even we thought it might be with how much these guys are able to hold on so far and how much of a fight they're able to put up.
Yeah, Jared Anderson, one of the drivers that came down on lap number 25. But Jared able to hold on to the race lead. Brad Holmes in second place right now, taking a look to the inside of that number 5 Chevy Silverado. Brad, first car that came down on those tires. It took, let's call it 5 or 6 laps for those tires to really come through for Brad.
It did, and one thing that we've become accustomed to seeing out of that 00 is aggression on the short runs. Brad is not afraid to go out there and use some new tires to try and muscle his way into some positions, into some good track position, into some clean air, and he'll kind of start to worry about the tires a little bit later. But for the early part of the run, I think Brad wanted to get away from that 55, get through the traffic, and set sail.
On board with Rick Thompson coming out turn number 4 as Rick takes a look on Andrew Caldwell right now, currently running in the 6th place position for driver 76, entering into turn number 1 right behind Tanner Marr. Andrew Caldwell to his outside. Rick's having a really good run. Rick is a driver that we don't always see out here in the Cyber Thunder Racing League. Kind of misses a few races here and there, but when he does, we know that the 76 is out there.
Absolutely. If Rick is able to string together a mostly full season, that is somebody who will have to watch out as a playoff contender. As he gets into the wall just a little bit right there, that's going to allow the 92 of Ed Jurgen and the 8 of Gary Bowman to potentially both get by him. Rick going to fight back on the outside there, really pinching Gary down to the line, trying to hold on there, but I think Ed has got it, and he's going to start to pull away a little bit.
Big look now for Rick Thompson on the inside of the 92 of Ed Jurgen, trying to make his way through. This is a battle for the 6th place position between those two, running right behind Tanner Marr. Tanner currently riding inside the top 5. Biggest mover of the night for Tanner Marr, up 16 positions, and Jared Anderson up 28 positions. So a couple of drivers moving in the right direction here to think about the end of stage number 2 coming in about 12 or 13 laps here.
That's right, the end of stage 2 is coming up pretty quickly, and we are seeing quite the scrap when it comes to positions here early in the race. Drivers know the importance of stage points more than ever with how the wild card works, and we're seeing that 5 trucks start to fade. Jared Anderson, one of those drivers who pit a little before the end of stage 1 to take those tires and jump up a bunch of positions. Still going to be sitting in 4th place if Andrew Caldwell can make this move. 3rd or 4th place for the 5 truck, and I think that's a strategy very well managed. Caldwell not going to be able to get there on this attempt, going to have to file back in line, and that 5 truck is sitting pretty.
Yeah, great run out here for Jared. Just 2nd start in the Cyber Thunder Racing League for that number 5 truck. Currently losing a spot to Andrew Caldwell. See if Andrew is able to clear him on the exit of turn number 4. It looks like he may be able to do that, but a big battle and a big mess of drivers. 4 wide, 3 wide back here behind Andrew Caldwell as these drivers looking to battle for, we'll call this the 6th place position, maybe 5th place position.
whatever position it is, there's a lot of stage points up for grabs, and we see a good mix of drivers here. We see some drivers who are doing really good in points, maybe better than they're used to, and then we see some drivers who really need to step it up. I'm thinking the 8 and the 81 are lower in points, or in Dustin's case, no points, and they really want to kind of turn their fortunes around, whereas, you know, we saw a really good race at Daytona out of Tanner and even out of Ed Jurgen in the 92, so a good mix. Drivers trying to keep their momentum and others trying to go up there and take it.
As we follow the battles all over the speedway out here, Jared Anderson now under fire from Rick Thompson. We're currently watching the battle between teammates Ed Jurgen, Gary Bowman. Down here into turn number 3, got Dustin Ping to his outside. Dustin started... I just lost my spot. Dustin started 10th on the board out here tonight, currently running 9th. Corey Sherman, though, is the driver that, keeping an eye on that. Corey is kind of going the opposite way, the wrong way, here in Stage 2, Arie.
Yeah, it seems so. I feel like once Corey kind of lost that clean air and started to kind of get under pressure and get put in traffic, he has not had the same feel for that truck, where at the start of the race, that 3 truck looked awful fast, but has not quite been able to figure it out with all the dirty air and all the trucks around him. But if we turn our attention back up to the very front for just a moment, Greg Mitchell starting to run down that 00 Brad Holmes, but don't look now. Andrew Caldwell in the 46 is glued to the back bumper of that 55 truck.
The 46 looking to make moves out here tonight. Andrew trying to break a winless streak of about 98 races since we last saw that 46 Toyota Tundra in victory lane for Andrew Caldwell. Trying to get up there so many times. He was so close. Finished 2nd, finished 3rd, finished 4th last season. Was one of our championship contenders last season. Looking to break that winless streak out here tonight, and tonight might just be the night for Andrew.
It very well may, and very quietly, Rick Thompson in the 76 up to 4th place, got around that 5, and hasn't quite caught up to these top 3, but running real pretty on his own back there in 4th position. Brad Holmes now feeling the pressure of 2nd and 3rd places, maybe tried to start picking up the pace just a little bit. Stage ends at 57. At the line here, we are going to be entering lap 50, so we are getting down to it now. How much tire do each of our leaders have left?
So no concern on fuel for this stage number 2 run as they come out of turn number 4 to begin lap number 51. No concern on fuel for these drivers, but the concern, like you just said, is going to be the tires. Remember, they have 6 tire sets out here that they can use. Most everybody in the field, I would almost venture to say everybody in the field, already down 1 with 5 sets remaining for these next 80 laps or so.
I would tend to agree. It would be a pretty wild strategy to not have taken any up to this point, and well, if there's one thing I've seen, Greg Mitchell knows how to manage his tires. Now, the other 2 around him, they aren't quite known for the same. Will they be able to go out there and prove us wrong for the end of stage 2 here? We'll find out. But looks like Jared Anderson in the 5, falling back a little further into the grips of Gary Bowman and Ed Jurgen in the 8 and 92 respectively.
And a battle for the race lead right now is Brad Holmes, Greg Mitchell. As we see Greg take a look to the inside of the Western Star 00. We call him Double-Double around here on the Cyber Thunder Broadcasting Network. To the inside is Greg Mitchell. Not able to clear him just yet on the exit of turn 4. He's going to need a little bit more to slide up and use the entire track. That allows Brad to keep his left front on the right rear. And now Greg cleared down into 1.
That he does, and we see Brad Holmes dip that left front on the apron a little bit. That caused Brad to have to check up and correct that steering. That might just bring him into the grasp of Andrew Caldwell, who's going to dive down to the inside. 46 looking low on the 00. Is Brad going to lose 2 consecutive positions? We'll find out how well they stick out of turn 4, but Greg Mitchell is running.
Is this a product of tire fall off for the 00?
I think this is a product of Brad Holmes using up a lot of tire at the start of the run to make up those positions and find that clean air, and Greg Mitchell playing it just a little more patient. Greg was willing to be in that traffic just a little bit longer, take his time, and not use up his stuff too much to get there. And by the time we get to the end of the run like this, we see that 55 with the advantage on tires, and I would even say the same out of the 46 of Andrew Caldwell, who is getting a lot better with tire management. Specifically, that 46 I think is night and day difference 1 year ago today versus now. So Caldwell showing some real good tire management.
Speaking of tire management, let's do a quick little housekeeping. Drivers that pitted on lap number 25, Jared Anderson, still currently running in 8th. Tanner Marr still currently running in 9th. As the yellow flag is out, and that is going to be our stage-ending yellow.
That it is, of course, within the designation for stage 2. Let's see if we can't figure out what we've got happening here. I think the replay is putting me on the 46. Not sure about where that incident came from, to be quite frank. See if I can jump around a little bit more and potentially find what happened here. It looks like Chris Rose lost a bunch of positions. See if we can. Oh, yep, there we go. We've got Chris Rose with big issues. The 07 looks like a really big incident right here. Let's see if we can rewind the cameras just a little bit. Let's see where this incident started. Looks like a couple other drivers involved. See if we can't slow this down. We've got the 62 making a look to the inside. That, I believe, is Jason Dinsmore. Going to get to the inside of Chris Rose in the 07, comes down, and the two of them make contact. It looks like the 20 of Mike Stiverson going to be an innocent bystander in this one. Nowhere to go, just gets into the back of that bright red 07 of Chris Rose, and that is going to be some significant damage for the 20 of Mike Stiverson and some even bigger damage for the likes of Chris Rose, who gets back into the wall just for a little good measure right there. Everyone else seems to make it around, so we'll see how that affects their race, but unfortunate for the 07 and for the 20. We are back live with the race leaders, and the race leaders did all elect to come down pit road, that of course being the end of stage 2, and that being the end of stage 2 just a little bit earlier than planned makes the fuel situation for stage 3 even more interesting. It was interesting coming in, but they're gonna have less or I should say more green flag laps in stage 3 now, with that stage 2 caution coming out a little bit early. So what are these drivers going to elect to do for stage 3? Looks like we're going to get restarted coming to lap 58. Drivers can make it about 37 laps on fuel. That's going to put you just shy of 100 laps, and then the race ends at 134. It's interesting. It's close. Are we going to see some big saving out of some drivers? Or are we going to see some drivers deciding to just comfortably go for 2 pit stops here in stage 3? Not entirely sure. It looks like the lights are back out on the pace car. And we'll go around one more time before we get it restarted. We see a number of drivers coming in to top off on fuel. Now, this is interesting because the drivers who are coming down for fuel right now are potentially putting themselves in position for a more comfortable single pit stop to the end. We'll find out right here. See if we can, real quick. Look right here. It looks like Andy Cork had a little issue for a moment. If I can find where that happened. We got Andy Cork catching up to the field, maybe, oh. Yeah, maybe that blinked out caused a little issue right there. I don't know why it said Andy Cork crashed, but luckily everything is good.
All right, back at it. Stage-ending caution out here tonight for stage number 2. Greg Mitchell, Brad Holmes comes out. They're going to be our race leaders as we get set to go racing one more time to begin stage number 3 here. Arie, let's settle the score from the Sunset Showdown.
Let's do it. And I was talking about it just a little bit before, Tom, but very interesting. A lot of drivers electing to come down, lose that track position, take some fuel, and put themselves in a better position to potentially one-stop this final stage. It's going to be close, and these guys who stayed out that entire... didn't come down to top off, I should say. They're going to be in an interesting boat where they might have to save more.
Well, the green flag is back out to begin stage number 3 here from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Greg Mitchell with a great jump on the exit of turn number 2, but Andrew Caldwell working his way through, gets a big run out of turn number 2. He's going to clear halfway down the backstretch. Brad Holmes takes a look down to the inside. Gary Bowman to the outside of Brad Holmes and Andrew Caldwell as they continue to work their way through, but great run by Andrew Caldwell right now. We saw the same thing from Brad Holmes in the beginning of stage number 2, where the double-0-0 machine tried to make his way through and lost the tires on the end of that round. We'll see if we see the same thing here or if Brad picked up on anything in stage number 2.
We'll find out. One thing I find really interesting is just how early Andrew Caldwell in the 46 moved all the way up to that outside line, getting real aggressive to try and take that track position away. Andrew Caldwell wants to lead this race, but I don't think Greg Mitchell is going to give it up too easily. Tries to keep it there. Andrew Caldwell sideways out of 4, keeps it going, but Greg Mitchell's going to get back to the point, and that might result in that 46 losing 2 or 3 positions by the end of it. Just could not make it stick.
Yeah, really kind of an unfortunate event for Andrew Caldwell. Had the race lead coming out of turn number 4, but you get there down on the bottom, and the momentum carries the other lines around as we see Corey Sherman now making his way back up into the top 5 running position, trying to at least for Corey Sherman. Dustin Ping, kind of a name that's been up there all night long, never really been in contention for the race win just yet. Dustin may be a sleeper here in stage number 3, as he's 3 wide into 1.
Well, as my pick to win the race going in, I do hope Dustin is a sleeper tonight. It looks like he's figuring it out. Dustin was very unhappy throughout the practice session. He couldn't get a good feel for it. He was not confident whatsoever. But here we see the driver of the 81 battling in the top 5 and coming on late in the race. So that could be a good sign. Maybe Dustin's figured something out here.
While all this is happening, Greg Mitchell has opened up about a truck, maybe a truck and a half length lead over second place Brad Holmes, Gary Bowman, as these drivers continue to work every single lane of real estate here from tonight's race, as we got 3 wide. Ping, Bowman, and Brad Holmes coming out turn number 2.
3 wide, and everyone's trying to step it up and take it just a little bit more. Brad Holmes going to benefit from that one, and Dustin is surprising me with how well he's able to hold that bottom line in these side-by-side battles. Usually the bottom line is a little more disadvantaged, but Dustin's been making it work good so far. Now, is he going to pay for that by burning up his tires remains to be seen, as Greg Mitchell comfortably pulls that gap up to about half a second to second place.
Watching the battle for second place right now, Brad Holmes under fire from Gary Bowman in that smoked bacon number 8 Toyota Tundra, out with the Game Genie from last season, in with new colors in the white and teal for Gary Bowman. Other drivers having big battles on the track out here. Eric Anderson, Tanner Marr. You got a whole bunch of cars back here in this kind of little mix of drivers. Eric Anderson, last week's winner at Daytona, currently riding in 9th place. A solid follow-up race for Eric.
That it is. Eric just hanging out in the back end of the top 10, just kind of there, just in the frame of the picture, and that is going to bode well when it comes to stage points and race finishes. So Eric following up that performance at Daytona with a solid run here tonight so far. It looks like our race leaders have kind of evened out for the moment. Gary Bowman still trying to get to the inside of Brad Holmes, but nobody really getting the advantage over anyone else. Andrew Caldwell might be looking to make another run. Tires might have cooled down a little bit after that slide. And, oh, Dustin Ping with a very late block. Going to stall the momentum of the 46 and giving him an opportunity at the 8. But if I'm Andrew Caldwell, I'm remembering that.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a late block, but I kind of wonder how much of that was Dustin trying to get underneath Gary to get a run down the backstretch. Don't really see that being a full-on block as so much it was Dustin looking forwards, not so much as backwards in that very moment there.
Right, I think that's a pretty good point that you got right there, Tom. Drivers are so focused on the runs they have, the runs of those around them, and sometimes you do get a little tunnel vision just trying to get the pass made, and you don't realize.
But if I'm Andrew Caldwell, I don't care.
That is also true. Looks like Dustin Ping's going to get that move done on Gary Bowman. The entry of 3. Gary Bowman not going to go away easily, though. Going to take a look to the inside, and now we're going to reverse roles. How does Dustin do on the high side, and can Gary make that bottom line stick? Gary seems real strong tonight, but Dustin seems like he might have figured something out.
Andrew Caldwell's watching these two drivers in front of him, trying to say, hey, whichever lane is going to go, that's fine. I'll go with him as he takes a look down onto the inside, almost below Gary Bowman, but he's going to back out of it and try to restack, repack, come down the front stretch here. To begin lap number 69 of 134 in tonight's Sunset Showdown 250, race sponsored by Brian Dorsey. Great racing so far out here tonight. Only 2 contact cautions and the 2 stage cautions as well. So these drivers are certainly putting on a show here, Arie.
Yeah, I would agree that these drivers are putting on a show, and you can see all of these drivers 2nd through 6th place in a line, nose to tail, starting with Brad Holmes, ending with Corey Sherman, and they're all pulling in Greg Mitchell by the looks of it, so make it 7 cars in a line before you get to that gap to Jaden Wicks, who's in the 0-2, holding on to that track position really well, Tom.
Yeah, Jaden Wicks came down on lap number 55. He was one of the drivers that elected to come down on that lap number 27 caution, then stay out on stage 1 caution. Still running very well up in the 7th place running position for the 0-2 machine. Rookie to the Cyber Thunder Racing League is Jaden Wicks, currently the highest running rookie of the season out here tonight so far. Other rookies in the field out here tonight: Dwayne Young currently running in 11th, up 14 spots from his qualifying position. Chris Mackey in 14th, started 18th on the board, sits 14th as they run right now. Theodore Todorov in 25th, 25th. Matthew Hamilton and Jared Anderson. Jared Anderson we saw lead a bunch of laps earlier in stage number 2, back down into the 29th position for the 5.
That he is. The 5 has fallen from grace after getting those laps led with that good strategy. But who knows? Could it be fuel-related? Fuel-saving related, I should say, through stage 3 right here. We saw a kind of broken up stage 1 and 2 earlier on with the cautions flying, and maybe drivers are starting to bet a little bit on it calming down for stage 3.
Couple of drivers making their way on and off pit road. Mike Stiverson has come down and come off of pit road already. So working lap number 57 here for Mike, running in the 22nd position. Early, late, fuel, what do you think?
Given lap 57 for Mike, I think it might just be a result of some of the damage, if that information was correct, because Mike was, of course, caught up in that last incident with the 0-7 at Chris Rose and got some damage from that.
Yeah, I do want to say that you're correct. Mike is 15 laps down. That would explain the difference in laps run out here tonight so far. Mike got caught up in that incident in that stage number 2 caution, likely, but battles all over the speedway right now. Andrew Caldwell, the name of the night. Really strong run for that 46 machine, but you got Corey Sherman under fire from Gary Bowman down here. Corey's able to hold on to it for right now.
That he is. It looks like Corey's kind of finding his way back up towards the front, making those moves up to 4th position now. And it's been an up and down night for Corey. We thought it was great at first, and then we thought it was bad, and here he is again, that 3 car making up some positions. So who knows what it comes down to, but Corey's figured it out. He's heading in the right direction, but that 81 of Dustin Ping heading in the wrong direction fast.
Yeah, Dustin Ping currently running in the 7th place position. He's under fire from Eric Anderson as and Jaden Wicks as Dustin trying to hang on to some positions. You had mentioned that Dustin wasn't entirely happy with the setup and the temperature combination out here tonight. So difficulties for the 81. Again, missed last week's race, took a provisional, got 1 point less than last place points out here, so already in a hole. But I mean, hey, he's running in 7th. There's 23, 24 drivers that would love to be running in 7th right now. So, you know, the crew chief says your car is running better than 23 of them.
You know, that's a good way to think about it, Tom. I've never thought about it that way. So that's a good way to go. And Dustin's still holding on to a solid position as we see Ed Jurgen to the inside of Eric Anderson. These are two very long tenured drivers here at the Cyber Thunder Racing League, and both off to a really good start this season for the most part. Ed, unfortunately, getting taken out at Daytona, but not before showing off a pretty good run. And it looks like Ed might be getting a 2-for-1 special here, getting around Dustin Ping through turns 1 and 2. Ed Jurgen might have something figured out and might be putting himself in the right place at the right time.
Want to take a step back here, just a couple of spots, and take a look at Dwayne Young. First time we've said Dwayne's name all night long. Had a great run out in our opening race at Daytona 1 week ago here on the Cyber Thunder Broadcast Network. Having a pretty good run in 11th place position in that black and yellow Lowe's number Chevy 48 machine down there. He's under fire from Lee Campbell, but solid showing for the 48 tonight so far. Don't think there's a scratch on that truck, and sometimes that's a win in itself.
It absolutely is, and Dwayne Young was the only newcomer to be featured in the power rankings after race 1 with a very good showing at Daytona. So we'll see how that 48 can hold on for the rest of the evening, and if he can break in to that top 10 by the time the checkered flag flies, as it looks like Dustin Ping might have been in the wall just a little bit and might be in it again.
Yeah, Dustin continuing to make his slide backwards now, running in the 10th place starting position. Dwayne Young looks to make his way into the top 10 as he's going to be able to in front of that number 81, and I do believe that he's going to bring the 60 of Mr. Lee Campbell with him. So maybe 2 spots down for Dustin here, and Chris Wold not too far behind. Here reports of a couple of drivers beginning to make their way onto pit road as the drivers work lap number 79 of 134. Jaden Wicks, 71, coming down pit road here. As it looked like maybe Jaden had a moment getting on pit road. We'll see if we can't cue that up and see exactly what happened to Jaden. Saw a couple of incidents for him. We'll see what happened here to Jaden real quick before we get back to the live action here. You see Jaden. It's the definition of coming in hot here, Arie. And
yeah.
I am not in a position to talk about pit road entry. So Jaden Wicks gets down there, all things considered, gets away pretty clean out of that mess. Maybe just a little bit of time lost at worst.
Yeah, that looked like it could have been a lot worse for the 0-2, and that's actually 2 weeks in a row, not to throw Jaden under the bus, but same exact thing happened to Jaden getting onto pit road under green at Daytona, so something to keep in mind and something to work on going forward, because that 0-2 was running really well going into that little slide.
Andrew Caldwell still working over the back bumper of Brad Holmes as these leaders now working lap number 81. So a couple of drivers beginning to make their pit stops. Jaden Wicks, Jared Anderson, Matthew Hamilton, drivers that have come down onto pit road already. We're keeping a close eye and a close ear out to see if we hear any of the race leaders come down, but Brad Holmes continuing to protect second place position as first place Greg Mitchell, he's kind of stepped out to about a second lead over this pack of 4 cars behind him.
That he has, as we see Andrew Caldwell in the 46 trying to pull the slide job on double-double. He's going to get it done, but will Brad Holmes come back down to the inside? Yes, he will. Brad Holmes going to take the fight back to Andrew Caldwell, not ready to give up second place just yet. Andrew Caldwell now on the high side. We've seen that 46 very comfortable on the high line so far this evening. Will Brad clear as they exit to? He does, but Andrew Caldwell coming back. They are not going to let each other go. Crossover after crossover as we get ready to enter turns 3 and 4. One thing I do want to mention, Tom, is the drivers who we've seen pit so far and continue to pit, like Eric Anderson in the 43 here.
Yellow flag is it?
Oh, that was ahead, I think.
Yellow flag is out just as Eric Anderson was about to come down onto pit road.
This changes everything. Let's go ahead and see if we can't figure out what happened. That looked like it may have just been between some of our race leaders there. So let me see if we can't find the moment this would have been with. Let's see. We can get back to this point, entering turn 3 and 4. I think it may have been on the following lap. Here we go. Got Andrew Caldwell on the 46, Brad Holmes on the 00, and Corey Sherman in the 3 just kind of gets in to the quarter panel of Brad Holmes, sends him sideways, and that is going to be what brings out the caution. Let's see if we can't get another angle of this a little slowed down even. From onboard Corey Sherman. Nope, I don't think we're going to be able to, but nonetheless, unfortunate incident for 2 of our top 5 runners. However, there was not a lot of contact, and these drivers are going to be able to keep a clean truck through it all. We jump back on board with Greg Mitchell, who's going to lead on pit exit. Now, something to keep in mind is that a fuel run is 37 laps. You cannot make it to the end of the race on this pit stop, not even if you try and save that fuel. So this guarantees 1 stop to the end for everybody on track. What this does do is put the drivers who had already made their pit stops in a very interesting position. Mostly a negative position, because those drivers were a lap down and going to start to take their wave around right here this time by, and we even saw on board with Eric Anderson. Very fortunate for that caution to come out when it did, and not a second later to trap Eric a lap down potentially. So looks like Greg Mitchell, Andrew Caldwell are going to be the first 2 leading us back to green. Pace car has those lights off. 1 lap to go. We're going to restart on lap 87. Brad Holmes, Gary Bowman sitting in 3rd and 4th, and rounding out the top 5, gonna be that 43 of Eric Anderson, who benefited from, or was rather saved by that timing of the caution.
Well, Arie, this kind of puts the field in a precarious situation here, as we're going to get a restart here for the 4th time out here tonight, with just about 50 laps to go from tonight's event here in the Sunset Showdown. For the first time, we're seeing Andrew Caldwell starting up on the front row here. This may be a benefit to the 46, as he's going to try to keep to the outside of the 55 machine. I think the 46 may be the best truck out here tonight, just never had the track position. We're going to see the pace car down and away. Once again, Barney's got the flag high up in the air. Let's go racing once more.
Greg Mitchell's going to get a great jump on that bottom line. Going to bring Brad Holmes with him in the 00. Now, if Brad Holmes can stay ahead of that 46, I think we're going to see a lot of the same. But if Andrew Caldwell can go up there and take the fight to Brad Holmes early, I'd be real curious to see how this final run goes. Off of turn 2, yeah. Greg Mitchell, Brad Holmes, Andrew Caldwell.
Yeah.
Looks like we've got Eric Anderson to the inside of Gary Bowman, running that high line all the way up against the wall, going to carry that momentum out. Gary Bowman going to hold on to 4th place. Now going to take a look to the inside of Caldwell. That's going to be for 3rd. Gary Bowman sends it in deep. Has to check up quite a bit. That's going to give the momentum to Caldwell. And it looks like Eric Anderson sneakily going to come off the high side and have a go at Gary Bowman.
And here comes Eric Anderson. Big run out of turn number 2. He's going to take 4th place away from Gary Bowman and set his sights on 4th place, Andrew Caldwell. Where has this 43 come from these past 2 weeks?
I tell you what, Tom, I don't have the answer, but that 43 has come out of nowhere now 2 weeks in a row. Eric Anderson up to P4, and with some speed to show for it, as we are under yellow yet again this evening. And it looks like an issue for Theodore Todorov. Let me go ahead and see if we can queue up a replay here of what may have gone on with Theodore. Let's go here, and maybe issues for Jared Anderson as well. It looks like caution was already out at this point. Jump back to here. Oh, yeah. Looks like they're already in reverse by the point we get there. Let's go ahead and rewind this just a little bit. You see the 33 truck there and the 5. It looks like the 33 just kind of loses control in the middle of the corner, and the 5 really had nowhere to go. Rewind this one more time and maybe get a different angle here. As we enter the corner, the 33 is already sideways. You can see the angle right here. Theodore just losing control of the truck slowly but surely. It's just a very lazy slide, and then overcorrection to the right. That's going to put him right in the way of the 5. Jared Anderson going to have hard contact with the outside wall from getting just wrong place, wrong time. That 33 slides up right in front of you, and Jared Anderson had nowhere to go. You can see that front left tire wobbling just a bit. That is going to be some severe damage for the 5 as well as the 33 truck.
While we're watching the replays out here, only driver inside the top 10 to come down on pit road here is Dustin Ping in the number 81 machine. Obviously, we spoke about Dustin not be super happy, but Dustin Ping, one of the only drivers inside the top 10 to come down. Nathan Dufton, Andy Cork, Theodore Todorov, Jared Anderson, drivers involved in that caution, come down here onto pit road. And terminal damage for Theodore Todorov and Jared Anderson, as they are both displaying meatball flags. And a meatball flag in iRacing is generally just saying you're probably done for the night. Too much damage.
That it is. All right, Tom, as we get ready to rack them up for the final run to the line, what do you say we cut to just a quick commercial and get us back in time for the restart?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Doubled up. Take it away, Tom.
Back at it here from Homestead-Miami Speedway, as both Arie and I are set to go racing once again here from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Greg Mitchell, once again with the restart, got Brad Holmes to his outside, going to jump about half a car length here, but this puts the opportunity to the 46, just like we saw the 46 on the 0-0 on the last restart. This puts the opportunity to Andrew Caldwell, as Brad Holmes is going to have a huge run off of turn number 2.
Such a big run that he got into the wall once or twice. He did double-double in the 0-0, as Andrew Caldwell could not hold on to second, or maybe elected to just go ahead and ride it out a little safely. Eric Anderson in that bright blue 43, also not giving up, sitting pretty in P4. Greg Mitchell holds on to the lead, but Brad Holmes might be looking for it.
That was a pretty close squeeze for Andrew Caldwell in front of Eric Anderson. I think Eric probably played a little bit nice there and says, hey, you know, I'll remember that for next time, but come on up here. Eric Anderson currently running in fourth. Andrew Caldwell in third, putting the looks on Brad Holmes right now, coming down here into the south end of the Speedway from Homestead-Miami, Florida. Brad Holmes trying to take a look on Greg Mitchell, and this might be the biggest run that Brad's had all night on the 55.
It might be. Brad Holmes is hungry. He sees the opportunity. That lap ticker is about to hit triple digits, and that means we're getting real close to the finish. Can Brad Holmes take the fight to Greg Mitchell, or can Greg Mitchell play this clean air card to perfection? We've seen him do it time and time again, and Greg Mitchell looks strong, but Brad Holmes looks hungry.
Down here onto the bottom, see the 0-0 Western Star Ford F-150 of Brad Holmes trying to get the run on board right now with Greg Mitchell down the front stretch here, but Greg Mitchell continuing to protect the lead out here tonight. Driver led the most laps out here tonight so far. Brad Holmes all over the rear spoiler of that 55.
And we can see Eric Anderson, one of the only drivers in the top 10 to not be running the bottom line through turns 1 and 2. Now, Eric Anderson has gotten ahead of Andrew Caldwell, bring the winner of race 1 up to P3 here at Homestead as we are about to end lap 96, the top 3 under a blanket. And we've got some names starting to creep up towards the front, Tom, that we haven't talked about too much tonight. Tanner Marr, Lee Campbell. We've got Dwayne Young and Chris Wold all in the top 10 now as everyone starts to find their way into where they want to be.
Big looks for Eric Anderson in that petty blue Toyota Tundra. Or no, he's in a Ford this season. Ford F-150 for Eric, coming down onto the inside of Brad Holmes. We've seen the bottom lane not really work. Because you need the entire track to put the power down. If I'm Andrew Caldwell here, I might consider jumping down and pushing the 43 around Brad Holmes. If I'm the 46, I've been racing Brad all night long. As Andrew's got other ideas, he says maybe we'll just go 3 wide here.
Maybe we'll go
Caldwell
around the
here,
outside.
Yeah, I think I consider pushing Eric through.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, Tom. I don't know fully what to expect out of the 43 if I'm Andrew Caldwell, but I know how hard Brad Holmes has been fighting, and if I can kind of get 2 of us around Brad, that's a win. If I'm behind the wheel of the 46, as we see Eric Anderson putting up a great fight on the bottom line to try and eke away P2 from Brad Holmes. Eric Anderson slowly making his way up towards the front and having a very solid run.
On board here with Andrew Caldwell. He's almost going to get there. He is going to get there to the outside of the 43. That is huge for Caldwell, as he's now going to have the outside of the 43 going down here into turn number 3. That's going to give Brad Holmes a little bit of breathing room here. Brad running second behind race leader Greg Mitchell. Greg got about a 0.4 of a second lead over second place right now, and about a half second lead over this battle between Anderson and Caldwell.
I tell you what, Greg Mitchell is happy to see all of this battling behind him. This is only going to allow him to save his stuff more for later on in this run. Now, one thing we didn't get to bring up too much yet, all of the drivers who pit on that last pit stop, they are on the very outer reaches of maybe you can save it, or at the very least come down for a very, very, very short final pit stop if you save. So, something to keep an eye on. I don't think we would see any of those drivers stretch all the way to the finish, but something to keep in mind, we've seen some names fall back and just kind of start riding back there. So a lot of drivers playing a lot of different strategies as we see Tanner Marr try to chase down the 92 of Ed Jurgen. This is a battle for 6th place.
Yeah, Tanner Marr, one of the biggest movers out here tonight, up 14 spots from his qualifying position. The only driver who's had more gains out here tonight is Dwayne Young in that 48 machine, currently running in 9th. Again, Dwayne having a solid, quiet run out here tonight for that Lowe's black and yellow Chevy Silverado for Dwayne. But Tanner running well up inside the top 10, trying to put the heat on the back of the 92 of Ed Jurgen, coming through turns 1 and 2 here. Think he's going to need a little bit more help. I think Tanner is probably a car that's going to need the cars in front of him to start battling before he can take advantage of an opportunity tonight for the move.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of the same things out of Tanner that you are, Tom, as we see Chris Rold and Dwayne Young going at it side by side, heading down the front stretch. This is a battle for 9th position, and Chris Rold is going to have the advantage on entry. We see the 19 truck just behind of course, Logan Spencer creeping back up into the picture after jumping a bunch of cars with some good strategy calls earlier on in this evening. And there's a truck we haven't talked too much about, the 89 of Philip Van Vliet this evening, running in 12th place just behind this battle.
Yeah, Philip having a great run, finished, what was it, second out there last week at Daytona. But Logan Spencer, you see the 19, the white 19 machine, riding all the way up against the boards behind the 32 machine. While all this is happening, Brad Holmes, Gary Bowman, they're swapping spots for about 3rd place up towards the front of the pack right now. Don't count out Gary Bowman. Gary's one of those, we've said this several times tonight, and we're going to say it all season long. Gary's one of those drivers that, well, if you see him coming, it's already too late.
That is absolutely correct about Gary Bowman, and Andrew Caldwell is sitting comfortably in 2nd place at this position now, with only the 55 of Greg Mitchell ahead of him. Now, this might be one of the first times this evening that we've seen this exact setup. Caldwell has the leader in his sights. What can Andrew do with that now that he's cleared that 0-0 and he doesn't have him breathing down his neck?
It's also going to be interesting here, Arie. We are now within the pit window. Minus any overtimes. Remember, we have 3 attempts at a green-white checkered out here tonight. If we do need them at the end of the races, we've got a couple of cars. Chris Mackey, currently running in 18th place. Chris Mackey is going to be the first of the lead lap cars to come down onto pit road. If I'm Greg, if I'm Andrew, if I'm Brad, if I'm Eric, I'm not too concerned about the 18th place car, but I'm specifically keeping my eye on that Anderson, Bowman, Jurgen, Marr, Campbell kind of area from about 4th to 8th or 9th or 10th. If I hear one of those drivers come in, that kind of pushes your hand.
I think it absolutely does, and the higher up, the more it's going to force your hand in terms of the running position, as we see Andrew Caldwell under pressure from Brad Holmes again. It looks like Caldwell gone up to 2nd, but now has been reeled in by everybody chasing, as Greg Mitchell is up to about 1.3 seconds, as we see the 71 pulling off onto the apron here and getting ready to come down for a green flag pit stop. Is this going to start to break the window open and allow everyone to make their stops? We're going to find out. But if I'm Greg Mitchell, I'm trying to run away as far as I can before I have to think about pit stops, and that way nobody can undercut me.
Amanda Sherman and the driver of the War Wagon coming down onto pit road right here. We'll take a look and watch Amanda's speed getting down here onto pit road. I want to say it's 45, maybe it's 55 down here on pit road for these drivers. A little bit of smoke on the front stretch. Looks like everybody's going to make their way out of it alive, but the driver of the War Wagon pits from the 19th place running position, and she falls down to 23rd through this round of green flag pit stops here that we're seeing.
And of course, with these early pit stops, what that's going to do is jump you ahead of some of these other drivers who are staying out a little longer. You're going to be making up faster lap times, and it all cycles around towards the end of the race. The people who pit later are going to be coming back. So will it work out for Amanda? We'll find out. But Greg Mitchell, almost 2-second lead now.
Now, if I'm Andrew Caldwell, I'm in a difficult position here. It looks like these drivers are trying to all funnel down to the bottom lane of the Speedway here, possibly pit stops coming from this group here. But if you're in this pack here, it's difficult to pit because you've got somebody right up on your rear bumper, whereas Greg Mitchell, who's got about a 2-second lead over the rest of this pack that you got, Greg can kind of dip on and off pit road without a whole lot of risk of somebody getting into you coming down here on pit road. But high risk category for Brad Holmes, Andrew Caldwell, Ed Jurgen, Gary Bowman, Tanner Marr, and Eric Anderson here in this little 5-car pack here.
It is very high risk, as we see Andrew Caldwell has fallen from 2nd all the way back to 5th in the blink of an eye in one lap, really, as the 92 and the 8 are making up some positions. We got some drivers pitting.
And here comes the first of the leaders to come down on pit road. Andrew Caldwell comes down on pit road. So let's keep an eye on Andrew Caldwell and try to determine where he's going to come out on pit road. and how many laps he elects to, or the other drivers elect to stay out. If I'm Greg Mitchell, if I'm Ed Jurgen, I'm coming down now.
Oh, Andrew Caldwell slides the
slide
box just a little bit.
And a slide for Andrew Caldwell. Gary Bowman coming down on pit road here. As you see the times on pit road at the bottom of your screen, Corey Sherman with a 35 might be a speeding penalty down there for Corey Sherman. Lee Campbell. Who else is down there? Ed Jurgen. This is pit lane time, so from pit entry to pit exit, not just box time here. Brad Holmes also coming on pit road. A lot of things to keep an eye on here as we run through a round of green flag pit stops here, Arie.
A lot of things to keep in mind, and it looks like race leader Greg Mitchell also on pit road, this time by Tanner Marr and Philip Van Vliet going to be the top two who stay out. Larry Bell up to third. We'll see how long these drivers elect to take the run before they come down for their pit stop.
And there you already see, so Andrew Caldwell coming around Greg Mitchell right here. Greg Mitchell on pit road, sitting in his box right now. Andrew Caldwell halfway down the backstretch. Andrew Caldwell halfway down, going down into turn number 3. It's going to be a battle if Andrew Caldwell can get in front of the 55 on pit exit here. We're going to keep an eye on the 55 and the 46. Those are the two first leaders that came down onto pit road. Andrew Caldwell not far behind Greg Mitchell down on the flat section of the track here on the apron, trying to make the jump on Greg Mitchell for track position here.
Well, I tell you what, this is going to work out really well for Greg Mitchell in the 55, who came down with a couple seconds buffer as the race leader. Came down a lot later than everyone else around him and holds on to the race lead. Greg Mitchell is going to be looking to set sail for the rest of the evening, but we've got a very interesting outcome here. Gary Bowman up to effective P2, running behind Greg Mitchell and ahead of Andrew Caldwell in the 46. So a great pit sequence for the 8 of Gary Bowman. What can Gary do with the race leader in his sights?
All right, so let's restack a little bit here. The top 5, the top 4, Larry Bell on pit road right now as we speak. The top 4, Casey Tomlinson, Dustin Ping, Philip Van Vliet, Tanner Marr, not yet pitted. They're hoping for a late race caution out here. If they get a caution, they're sitting good. Honestly, they probably really want to run about 5, maybe 6 more laps, try to drag Andrew Caldwell, Gary Bowman, Greg Mitchell down on pit road with them. But if I'm Dustin Ping, if I'm Phil Van Vliet, if I'm Tanner Marr on pit road right now, drivers not necessarily race-winning speed, give it a shot, see what happens.
You never know, as we're down to Philip Van Vliet, Dustin Ping, Casey Tomlinson, the last 3 who have not pit yet on this sequence. Eric Anderson going to be taking a spot away from Ed Jurgen. This will turn into 4th place once the cycle plays out. Ed Jurgen going to fight back to the inside of Eric. It's real close, but does indeed hold on. Looks
Phil
like
Van Vliet, Dustin Ping, Casey Tomlinson, they elect to stay out another lap. Philip comes down onto pit road as we were talking about it, but Philip on pit road, so 2 drivers yet to pit. Race leader Dustin Ping, 2nd place Casey Tomlinson. Casey had a 3rd place finish last week at Daytona. Career night for Casey. I don't hate this call here for Casey Tomlinson. Has run most of the night outside the top 10. If you get a caution in the right spots here, you're going to go green with about 15 laps to go, and who knows what happens from there. I don't hate this for Casey or Dustin.
I don't hate it either, and at this point, if we got a caution right now, I feel like there's a lot of drivers who are on somewhat fresh tires who would take another new set, and that cycle would keep a driver like Casey Tomlinson out front coming down for some tires. So I don't hate it. Stretch it out, see what you can do, because there's been a lot of cautions this evening, and you never know, as we see Dustin Ping giving up on staying out and getting those tires now. One thing I thought was pretty interesting, Tom, was Tanner stayed out for quite a while, Tanner Marr in the 4, and by the time Tanner exited the pit road, he wasn't as far back as I would have expected. Tanner's in 11th place on some of the freshest tires out of anybody up in that group. So watch Tanner to be making up some positions and dicing through the field as we approach the checkered flag.
Well, we've seen about anywhere from about a second to about a 1.5 seconds fall off here. So Casey Tomlinson calls out a pit stop for this lap. So race leader Casey Tomlinson planning to pit this time by. take a look at Tanner Marr. Where is Tanner? Tanner is about 18, almost 19 seconds behind the race leader right now. At about a second to a second and a half a lap, he'll probably gain some spots here. I can't imagine that he's going to go all the way up towards the front of the field and be in a podium position. But
well, keep in mind that was 18 seconds behind Casey Tomlinson.
Oh yeah. Casey coming down on pit road here. Now Greg Mitchell back to the race lead. Green flag pit stops mostly completed. Don't think there's anybody else than Casey was the final driver to come down here. So the net difference through that entire green flag pit stop is about a second, Bowman to Mitchell.
That it is, and Gary Bowman, our big winner on that pit stop sequence, jumping up into second place, about a second behind Greg Mitchell for the lead. Don't look now, Tom, but Lee Campbell's up to 7th place in that 60 truck.
This time by, we see 14 laps to go as Greg Mitchell makes his way around Fred Thompson in that Toyota Tundra in that number 79. Fred Thompson, oldest driver in the field out here tonight. And in the Cyber Thunder Racing League. Always a pleasure when we get to see Mr. Thompson come out onto the track and race with us on a Tuesday night, but all eyes up towards the front as you see Greg Mitchell. He's going to come around, lap Casey Tomlinson. Former race leader stayed out. Now Casey's going to have better tires here with only about 1.2, 1.3 seconds to second place. What Casey does here could affect how fast, if at all, Gary Bowman closes it.
It absolutely could affect it as we see Casey get loose and actually lose the car off of turn 2, sliding down to the inside. Casey keeps it going, but those cold tires are no joke, and I guess we have our answer. That's Gary Bowman around the 52, and with nothing but clean track ahead, but the 52 might have enough pace in those tires to fight back still.
Yeah, and if I'm Gary Bowman, that's not what I really wanted to see, because now I had to deal with Casey once, and now I'm going to have to deal with him a second time when Casey comes through on tires, as I do believe Casey's going to have much better tires. Casey pitted on lap number 113. Gary pitted 119 for Casey. Gary pitted on 111, so about 8 lap better tires for the 52.
And we can see that difference.
This is just killing Bowman right here, right now.
Yeah, absolutely. The 52 has so much more speed in that truck with those fresh tires, but all that's doing is hurting Gary Bowman's race, getting caught up in that dirty air and having to run so close to the 52 of Tomlinson. Meanwhile, right behind Bowman, we've got the 46 to the inside of the 00. That's Andrew Caldwell going for 3rd place on Brad Holmes, and Ed Jurgen sitting right behind, just lurking in wait for an opportunity to potentially pick off both of these drivers.
I remember Andrew Caldwell, one of the first drivers to come down on pit road. He's got about 2 lap older tires than Brad Holmes, and he's got 1 lap older tires than Ed Jurgen. Ed in the 92 car, he's going to take a look down onto the inside, try to take 4th place away from Andrew Caldwell. Not much contention there between the 92 and the 46. Ed Jurgen, clear for position number 4, sets his sights on double-double.
It's going to be a real interesting battle for 3rd place as we approach 10 laps to go, make it 9 at the line. The top 2 seem to have broken away comfortably. If we go green to the end, they might be settled, but this 3rd and final podium position is going to be up for grabs. We've got Eric Anderson lurking back here as well. Eric was one of the earlier drivers to come down, so he's going to have some of the older tires. We'll see how that affects Mr. Anderson. The driver who made the most recent pit stop out of the top 10 is, of course, Tanner Marr in 10th place. But Tanner has fallen back, which tells me it may have just been a quick 2-tire stop or even a splash to have such a quick time after staying out, and maybe Tanner's not on as fresh of tires as those around him.
Yeah, Tanner had about a 9.6 second pit stop. To put that in comparison with most of the rest of the field, Greg Mitchell, race leader, 14.9. Gary Bowman, 2nd place, 14.4. So about 5 seconds faster for Tanner Marr. That screams right side, either right side tires or fuel only for the number 4 machine.
That it does as we jump back on board with this battle for 3rd and 4th position. Caldwell and Anderson seem to be falling back just a little bit. Brad Holmes has kind of picked up the pace a little bit, and Ed Jurgen is there to match it. But Ed Jurgen can't quite reel in that gap to the 00 as we run.
Coming through, Greg Mitchell has opened up just over 2 seconds over second place Gary Bowman. Take a look here real quick of the lap time history between Gary Bowman and Greg Mitchell. Last couple of times by, Greg Mitchell anywhere from half a tenth faster to the last time by 127, just over a quarter second faster, and now again quarter second faster for Greg Mitchell. So sitting good for the 55 here.
That he is, as we see another close call from the 52 getting loose off of 2. And this is what happens when you're the race leader and you have a good 1 to 2 second cushion entering the green flag pit stops. You have the ability to stay out a little bit longer, and you avoid getting severely undercut. You can keep that track position and have some of the best tires on the track. And all that does is compound over time. On the back half of that run, you're going to gain even more time. And that's what we're seeing right now as we get to these last 5 laps of the race. Greg Mitchell just hoping for everything to stay green because it has worked out to perfection.
Now, let's not put this in the air, but remember, these drivers do have 3 attempts at an overtime finish out here tonight if they do. So this race not over by a long shot out here, but Greg Mitchell currently walking away with it as we're going to see 4 laps remaining from the Sunset Showdown. 250 from Homestead-Miami Speedway out here tonight. But Greg Mitchell, what a great run for the 55 out here tonight, hoping to put together the next 9 miles.
Well, I tell you what, Tom, I'm glad I wasn't the one that said it. Let the record show if a caution comes out. It was Tom's fault, but a great run for the 55 indeed. Is look at this, Ed Jurgen to the inside of Brad Holmes. This is going to be for P2, or P3, excuse me, as Brad Holmes is starting to fade a little bit, and Ed Jurgen coming on strong, trying to join teammate Gary Bowman on the podium. Jurgen gonna clear the front nose of Brad Holmes, and Brad does not have the momentum to try and make a move into turn 1. We are down to 3 laps to go. Can Ed hold on?
Yeah, I think if I'm Ed Jurgen right now, I don't think I'm catching Gary Bowman. I'm content to ride third, as Greg's going to see 2 laps remaining over the speedway out here tonight. But other drivers who pitted late, Tanner Marr, still currently running inside the top 10. He's got about he's going to have Leroy Koblenz battling not too far behind, but 2 laps to go. Popsicle sticks for Greg Mitchell. Greg just needs to see the white flag.
Greg Mitchell going to lead us off of turn 2 and take a nice long drive down that backstretch. That gap is up to 3.5 seconds over Gary Bowman in second place, almost 5 seconds to third place. Just cruising at this point, just got to keep it going. Through turns 3 and 4, the 55 is going to be greeted with that white flag, and that makes this race official. 1 lap to go.
1 lap to go here on the Cyber Thunder Broadcast Network from Homestead-Miami Speedway out here tonight in a race that saw several contact cautions, a lot of green flag pit strategy, and a whole lot of tire fall off and tire wear. Greg Mitchell looks to be the driver to outlast the other 33 drivers out here tonight as Greg goes down here into turn 3 one more time to try to get his first win of the season.
Out of turn number 4, it's going to be nice and clean. Driver of the 55, Greg Mitchell, going to win it here in Homestead-Miami for race number 2 of the season. And that's going to be 1 on the board for Mitchell, our points leader, who shows up and shows out with a pretty dominating performance here at Homestead. Not unchallenged, but Greg Mitchell is going to be our winner this evening, showing him how it's done at Homestead-Miami Speedway.
Top 3, we're going to gather them here in just a moment, but Greg Mitchell, Gary Bowman, Ed Jurgen, your podium finishers out here from tonight's race. 134 laps. That was a lot of fun to watch, Arie. That was quite the race.
It was indeed. We saw a lot of kind of varied strategies. We saw some cautions in there to mix it up just a little bit, and we saw a really dominant performance out of the 55. But as I alluded to a little earlier, that performance did not go unchallenged. There was a lot of contenders. There was comers and goers, and by the end of it, I think we got a podium that not many expected to see when the green flag flew at the start of this evening's race.
Well, we're going to try to gather up your top 3 finishers out here. See if we can't get Ed Jurgen on the horn. I believe Ed is the first one to come through. Let's take a look, see if we can't grab Ed Jurgen. I believe Arie is with Mr. Jurgen.
That's right. I've got third place finisher Ed Jurgen in the 92 truck, making that pass late with about 3 laps to go on Brad Holmes to get yourself up on the podium. Walk us through your race, Ed, and how you kind of found yourself just getting up the position slowly but surely throughout the night.
Just going into the race, I told Gary and Chris I'm gonna do my best impression to be Gary, and it paid off for me, sir.
that is one way to do it. Gary, of course, a teammate of yours over the years. Well, I tell you what, Ed, this is a really strong way to come out for race number 2 and kind of follow up what was a strong performance at Daytona until getting caught up in an incident. But going out there, getting a really good finish, some solid points as we look to the rest of the season. How are you feeling going into next week at Nashville and beyond?
Yeah, I'm looking good. If I can just keep my my discipline, following Gary, I think I can be okay. Going in trying to get some stage points. That's all I'm thinking about, stage points.
Sounds like a good plan to me. Well, I'm going to open up the floor to you here, Ed, to give any shout outs and thank yous to anyone involved in getting this thing going and giving you the opportunity to come home with a solid third place finish. The floor is yours.
Yeah, it's Jurgen's Lawn Care, my son's business there. I'd like to thank him for sponsoring. Gary, Chris, Arie, and Tommy for you guys putting on a good show.
All right. Well, congratulations, Ed, on a great run tonight. We're going to let you go celebrate with the others. And I do believe that Tom has caught up with our second place finisher.
I got Mr. Bowman, the showman, in the number 8 machine, out here tonight, up 13 spots from your qualifying position. Gary, good-looking blue and white truck out here. New colors for that number 8 machine on the Cyber Thunder Broadcast Network. Finishing second out here tonight.
Yeah, I figured I'd change it up this season, get a little bit more aggressive looking. So, yeah, everybody kind of keeps hating on me. I'm too nice, so I'm trying to change it up.
Well, you started 15th on the board out here tonight. You're finishing second. Talk us through those long green flag runs and that last green flag pit cycle specifically, where you came out about a second behind Greg Mitchell. Could you have done anything, maybe stayed out a little bit longer? What else could you have done differently to maybe close that gap on Greg in the closing laps there?
Yeah, I was debating on maybe trying to undercut him a little bit more, but then you never know with cautions. Seems like we're having cautions towards the end of the run, so I didn't want to get caught on that aspect. But I was trying that last run. I was trying to high line a couple of times just to see if I could get a run, get up to him, but you just can't run too much up there because you eat your tires up. So Greg was running the same line as me down low, saving the tires, and but yeah, it was a fun race though.
So you came into tonight's race 13th in points, outside of the playoff grid, but the leader of the wild card standings. As we take a look to next week, the following week, the week after that, Nashville, Las Vegas, New Hampshire, Sonoma. Are we going for race points or are we going for stage points for wild cards?
I'm trying to get all the points. So yeah, last year I kind of didn't pay much attention to the stage points, but yeah, this year I'm trying to get everything. That's factored into my strategy for every race. So yeah, I'm definitely going to be a lot more aggressive this year. So
I think that's about the best answer that Gary could have given us. I'm going for all of them.
right.
Gary went for almost all the positions out here tonight, 1 spot short of race winner Greg Mitchell. But Gary, I'm going to open up the floor for you, driver out of Virginia. Anybody you want to thank, say hello to on side in that number 8 machine. The floor is all yours.
I got to thank my beautiful wife and my teammates on Lounge Racing. Ed, he had a really good run tonight, and maybe I'm rubbing off on him a little bit. He kept telling me he was saving his tires. So, and of course, y'all for putting on such a great broadcast, and I always look forward to watching it back. and hope you feel better. You sick tonight, Tom?
Yeah, you try to do something nice for yourself, and you think it backfires. But yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. But yeah, we're on the mend.
Yeah, I'm trying to get over COVID myself, so yeah, I'm all sweaty right now.
Well, Gary Bowman, finishing second out here tonight. Great run for the 8 machine. Solid run for Gary. Congratulations once again. And we're kicking Gary out of here, and I think Arie's got the man with the big black and white flag down here, racingcockpits.com, Chevy Silverado, Greg Mitchell.
That's right. I've got race winner Greg Mitchell in the 55, who went out there and showed the field how it's done. It wasn't uncontested. There were some comers and goers and some drivers who really fought hard for it. But Greg, walk me through your race and kind of what was going through your mind in that final run.
Yeah, it was. Everyone was racing pretty good at the start. I was trying to pull the Heinzman and lead every single lap. I couldn't pull that off. But no, the first 2 stages went through pretty good. I was just trying to save my tires and have a little bit of a run at the end of the stage. And then that third stage, I wasn't quite sure how that was going to play out, because we had to play the fuel game or split it in half. So I tried to get a little bit of a lead and then save some fuel, and which I started doing for probably 10 or 15 laps, and then the caution came out. So then we were just going hard for those last 2 runs. And then my strategy there at the end was just basically pit a lap or 2 after the guys behind me did, and just try to have a little bit fresher tires since I had a little bit of a gap, and it worked out.
That it did. We saw it work out to perfection. Of course, building that buffer before the pit stops helps a lot. Well, Greg, it was a great run tonight at Homestead after a great run at Daytona, enough to have the points lead going into this race, to hold it through this race, capitalize it with a win. How are you feeling going into the next couple of races, and more specifically Nashville next week?
I didn't know where we were at. I was just going to ask, but Nashville's fun. That kind of races, I don't know, they call that a super speedway or speed. I don't know. It races kind of like a short track. I like that's a multi-groove track, so I enjoy that. And then I have no idea where we're at after that, but I enjoy every week. This league's awesome. Everyone in this league is great. So I look forward to them every week, no matter where we're at.
Well, I tell you what, I look forward to getting back on track with you next week. I'll be there at Nashville behind the wheel, and I'm going to open up the floor to you, Greg, to give any shout-outs, thank yous that you would like to do for such a great run tonight and bringing home the checkered flag here at Homestead.
Well, good to know you're going to be there. I got to practice twice as hard now, so that's good to know. But no, thank you to you guys watching your broadcast last week. You guys do a killer job, especially for the first one of the season. That was awesome. So glad to have you guys calling the shots. Thanks to Brian Dorsey for sponsoring this week, and shout out to my family who's watching.
All right. Well, congratulations again, Greg Mitchell. That is your race winner tonight for race number 2 of the season. What an event we had tonight, Tom. And man, I am looking forward to getting to the next race in Nashville. Not just because I'll be on track, but this season is already shaping up really great.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be a wonderful season. 2 races, 2 winners. We'll see how the points shake out after tonight. But Greg Mitchell, the private driver, out here tonight. The first driver on the podium, taking the black and white checkered flag out here tonight. Gary Bowman and Ed Jurgen, teammates at a lounge race, and finish up on the podium. Brad Holmes had a solid run all night long. Andrew Caldwell rounds out the top 5. Eric Anderson comes home with a strong top 10 after his win last week at Daytona. Corey Sherman, up and down, up and down, up and down all night for the driver of the number 3 Shermanator machine. Finishes 7th. Rick Thompson, Lee Campbell, and Leroy Koblenz finishes 10th.
In 11th place this evening, it's going to be Tanner Marr playing that strategy that didn't quite work out at the end. Dwayne Young in the 48 going to come home in 12th. Philip Van Vliet in the 89, 13th place finish. In 14th, it's going to be Chris Wold driving the 32, followed by Jason Dinsmore in the 62, finishing in 15th. We've got Nathan Dufton in the 47, got that early damage, that contact with the wall, brings it home in 16th, followed by Larry Bell of 5 Kings Motorsports in the 05. 18th place is Dustin Ping, had a very up and down night, but found himself in a bad way at the end, just ahead of Amanda Sherman in the 88 for TNA in that War Wagon. Rounding out the top 20, it's going to be Andy Cork of Graybeard Racing in the 41.
And the driver out of Bigfoot Motorsports, Logan Spencer, is going to come home 21st. David Gainforth ran the entire race on all 4 Goodyears. So Dave Gainforth comes home in 22nd place. Jaden Wicks, after showing flashes of brilliance and speed in the opening stages of tonight's race, comes home in 23rd. Matthew Hamilton, Chris Mackey, season rookie in that number 17, comes home in 25th. Casey Tomlinson, Fred Thompson, Brian Dorsey, your race sponsor out here tonight, come home in 27th and 28th. Mike Stiverson and Theodore Todrove round out the top 30.
Final 4 drivers at the line. Jared Anderson, 46 laps down after that unavoidable contact in the 5 truck. 32nd is going to be Chris Rose in the 07, out with an early incident. We've got Steven Music in 33rd. And shotgun on the field is Chris Letts.
Well, that was a whole lot of fun, Arie. We've got our upcoming races here on the Cyber Thunder Broadcast Network. We're going to be live tomorrow night for the Friggy-Diggy Racing League at, I believe you're going to be at Darlington Raceway, the track that's too tough to tame from Florence, South Carolina. And then next Tuesday night, same time, same place, we're going to be back here on the Tuesday Night Thunder Truck Series from Nashville Super Speedway, where I think you're going to make your return into the Tuesday Night Series.
That I am. I'm looking forward to it. Nashville Super Speedway, one of my favorite tracks and one of my better tracks as well. So it'll be fun to get back in behind the wheel and dice it up with everyone and kind of get a feel for it again. Get my first of 2 races that I'll be running this season, and being able to go back and watch how you call it, being that we're the broadcasters now, but I'm making an appearance behind the wheel. So I'm looking forward to it. Maybe I can go down there and show everyone that I still got it, or maybe I don't still got it. I guess we'll find out. That's the fun of it.
Well, from Homestead-Miami Speedway out here tonight, we got Greg Mitchell, the race winner for race number 2 of 23.
Oh, that camera is not happy.
That is, there we go. Greg Mitchell, driver number 55. Big winner out here tonight from Homestead-Miami Speedway. Hope everybody enjoyed tonight's broadcast. Hey, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We'll be back here tomorrow night and then next Tuesday night from Nashville Super Speedway. What do you say we make our way out of here? And I'll meet